My name's Jason, and if you asked anyone in our neighborhood, they'd tell you we were the kind of teenagers who thought we knew everything. Me, Mike, Eddie, and Sam, we were inseparable. Four heads of the same reckless beast, always chasing the next thrill, always laughing in the face of whatever was supposed to scare us. Haunted houses, ghost stories, superstitions. Please. We grew up on horror movies and urban legends. We lived for that stuff. Not because we believed it, but because mocking it made us feel invincible. That's probably why, when I suggested visiting my grandfather, known for spinning creepy stories out of thin air, no one hesitated. My grandfather was a quiet man, tall and wiry, with eyes that always looked like they were watching something you couldn't see. We'd grown up hearing his weird tales, some about cursed wells, others about shadows and mirrors that didn't follow your movements. We used to laugh at them, then argue about what part sounded real. But that afternoon felt different. The sun was dipping when we got there, the sky painted with streaks of gold and purple, like a warning hidden in plain sight. We sat on his porch, sipping lemonade while he eyed each of us, calm but serious. "You boys want another story, don't you?" he asked, already knowing the answer. We nodded eagerly, Mike even joking. "Give us something spooky, Grandpa. Maybe we'll finally get a nightmare." My grandfather didn't smile. "All right," he said slowly, "but this one comes with a condition." We leaned in, pretending to act cool, but completely hooked. "Whatever I tell you now," he began, "you will listen carefully. And no matter what, no matter how funny or fake it seems, you are not to go near that house. Not tomorrow, not ever. Understood?" We exchanged amused glances. "What house?" Sam asked, grinning. "Number 13, my grandfather said, pointing down the street. "Just a few blocks away, been closed off for years. You'll know it when you see it. Tall, gray, always seems to be staring back at you." He paused, and his voice dropped lower. "Long ago, there was a family who lived there. They were strange, kept to themselves. People whispered that they were involved in some kind of cult. Dark rituals, strange symbols drawn in ash on their windows, candles burning at odd hours. But they didn't care what people said. They even invited some of the neighbors one night, offered them a chance to see for themselves. I was one of them." He looked away, into the distance. "I didn't go. Something in my gut told me not to. But a few others, they did. They entered the house that night, walked into the basement with the family, said it was all just pretend, just a thrill." He stopped, his fingers tightening around his cup. "In the morning, no one came out. Police arrived. No bodies, no blood. Just silence, as if the house swallowed them whole. The officers were never able to explain what they saw inside. Some even refused to talk about it. Whatever it was, they said it wasn't human. They locked the house, sealed it up, and warned everyone to stay away. And we did. Most of us. That house has stayed empty ever since." We were frozen for a second, unsure if he was still telling a story or genuinely warning us. Then Eddie laughed. "Come on, Grandpa. That's just Halloween stuff. No way something like that actually happened here." The rest of us chuckled too, though less confidently. My grandfather leaned forward, locking eyes with each of us. "Boys," he said, voice gravelly and low, "don't let your curiosity write your eulogy. You might not believe in the dark, but that doesn't mean it doesn't believe in you. Don't commit the folly of entering that house." We left that evening with a strange silence hanging over us. No one cracked jokes on the way home, not even Eddie. But as the night deepened, and the world returned to the comfort of lights and phone screens, we began to laugh again. Just another spooky tale from an old man who liked scaring kids. Just a bedtime story. Right? Right? It's funny how a story you laugh at can sneak into your mind and camp there, silently growing roots. After that evening at Grandpa's, we walked home cracking jokes about spooky house number 13, mimicking his grave voice, and teasing each other like always. But later, when we were apart and alone in our rooms, it didn't feel as funny. The way Grandpa had looked at us, that seriousness in his voice, the way his hand trembled slightly when he said, "Don't go near that house." It stuck. Not that we believed him, of course, but we kept talking about it. Every day, like a dare waiting to happen. A week passed. Then another. That's when the idea stopped being just a joke. It was Eddie who finally said it. Why don't we just go? Just to prove it's nothing. It was a Friday night. We were sitting on the back steps behind Mike's house, drinking sodas and watching the sun bleed into the horizon. You mean go? I asked, even though I already knew we were going to. That's the thing about groups of teenage boys. Curiosity spreads like fire, and pride throws gasoline. Just a quick look, in and out, Sam added. What's the worst that could happen? We'll take flashlights, see some dusty furniture, maybe find a raccoon. Big deal. We planned it in whispers. We wouldn't tell our parents. We'd meet at 10 p.m., each of us sneaking out under a different excuse. Mike said he was sleeping over at Eddie's. I told my mom I was watching movies at Sam's. At 9:55, I stepped into the night, hoodie pulled up, flashlight in my pocket, phone fully charged. I met the others by the old fence behind the gas station, where the streetlights didn't quite reach. From there, we took the long way around, staying off the main roads. When we turned onto the block that held house number 13, something shifted. It wasn't the cold. It wasn't even the silence. It was the way the houses around it leaned away from it, like they didn't want to be associated. And then there it was, tall, gray. Its windows like closed eyes, the doors slightly crooked but shut. Overgrown vines clung to the walls, and the fence was broken in one place like someone, or something, had left in a hurry a long time ago. It was untouched, all right, but it didn't feel dead. It felt aware. We approached slowly, our flashlights flickering more from nerves than from batteries. Looks like a regular haunted house, Eddie said, trying to sound brave, but his voice cracked. You ready? Sam asked. Mike swallowed and nodded. Let's do this. The gate squealed as we pushed through, stepping onto the crunching gravel of the path. We reached the porch, where the wooden boards groaned beneath our feet like they were warning the house of our arrival. My hand reached for the doorknob and paused. Last chance to back out, I said. No one did. I turned the handle. The door opened with an eerie ease, as if it had been waiting for us all along. The air inside house number 13 was the kind that made your skin crawl for no logical reason. Still, heavy, and colder than it had any right to be. Our flashlights cut thin tunnels through the dark, slicing across furniture draped in white cloth, walls stained with time, and mirrors that reflected just a second too slowly. The floor creaked beneath every step, as if the house itself was listening. But we laughed it off. That's what we always did. Creepy level? 9 out of 10, Eddie joked, shining his beam at an old portrait on the wall. A family frozen in time, all expressionless, their eyes somehow darker than the rest of the painting. Bet they used to hang their victims upside down in here, Sam added, mimicking a horror narrator's voice. We all chuckled. Nervous chuckles, but chuckles nonetheless. We moved through the house like explorers of an abandoned museum, poking into rooms, finding nothing but dust and cobwebs and the occasional broken chair. But something was strange. It was all too perfect. Every room had something staged. A candle here, a mirror there, a doll in a rocking chair facing the wall. It didn't feel forgotten. It felt prepared. Like someone, or something, wanted it to stay exactly like this. Creepy setup, Mike mumbled. You think someone still lives here? Nah, I replied. Just urban legend stuff. But I gotta admit, it's weirdly clean for a haunted dump. We reached the end of the hallway when we saw it. A door, not like the others. This one had metal reinforcements and 3 thick bolts across it. At first glance, it looked completely sealed. But there was something behind it. We could feel it. An odor. Like burnt wood mixed with something fouler, like rotting herbs or dried blood. That's gotta be the basement, Eddie said, stepping forward. Looks like the one from Grandpa's story, doesn't it? Sam nodded slowly, then turned to me. So what now? Chicken out? I hesitated. We had come this far. Part of me wanted to turn around and leave. But the louder part, the part that didn't want to be called a coward, said, "Let's end this dumb legend." We worked together on the bolts. It took effort. They screeched like something alive was protesting every inch they loosened. Finally, the door creaked open and a wave of foul air poured out, thick and suffocating. Our lights flickered briefly, and for a split second, it felt like something moved just beyond the bottom step. "Probably rats," I said, trying to steady my voice. "Let's go," Eddie whispered. "Quick in and out." The first foot landed on the stair, then another. I was third in line, heart pounding, flashlight grip so tight my fingers ached. As soon as Sam, the last one, crossed the threshold, the basement door slammed shut behind us with such force it shook the whole staircase. We all turned in shock. Mike rushed up, pushing and pounding the door. "It's jammed," he yelled. No, it's locked. What the hell?" He jiggled the handle, kicked the door, cursed under his breath. "Calm down," I said, trying to swallow the rising panic. "It's probably just warped. Old wood, it'll open." But it didn't. No matter what we tried, that door stayed shut, like it had never opened at all. The basement around us was dark, so dark it felt like the shadows were swallowing our flashlight beams. But it was still just a basement, right? No ghosts, no monsters. Just stairs, walls, concrete, and something. A laugh. Distant. High. Then another. Closer. And then a voice. A whisper. Not inside the room, but from above us, where we'd just come from. "Open the basement. Let us in." The voice didn't make sense. The basement was already open. We were in it. But it kept repeating. Laughter. Whispers. Voices that sounded like they were mocking us. We stared at one another, too stunned to speak. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. The house didn't want us to leave. And worse, we weren't the ones being locked in. Something else was trying to be let out. The moment the basement door slammed shut behind us, a kind of silence fell that I still can't describe. Not empty, not quiet, just loaded. Mike lunged back up the stairs and pounded on the door. "Guys, it's stuck! I think something jammed it!" he shouted, yanking at the handle like it would suddenly give in. Eddie joined him, pushing, kicking, even slamming his shoulder against the wood until he winced in pain. "It's not budging," he breathed. "It's like it's welded shut." I scanned the space around us, heart thudding like a drum. It was pitch black beyond the reach of our flashlight beams, the kind of dark that felt alive, breathing around us. The air was thick and warm, not like the cold, dead air upstairs. It clung to your skin and made it hard to breathe. Okay, I said, trying to hold it together. "We go back down. We look for another way out. Maybe a window, maybe a crawl space. These old houses always have something." But even as I said it, I could feel something shift in the atmosphere. Sam stood frozen near the bottom of the stairs, his light shaking in his hand. "Guys, listen." At first, we didn't hear it. Then it came. Laughter. Faint at first, like it was coming from somewhere above the ceiling. Then clearer, louder. Not childlike, not friendly. It was mocking, twisted. And then the whisper came again, the one we'd heard before. "Open the basement. Let us in." The voice sounded closer this time, as if the house itself was saying it right into our ears. "Open the basement," it repeated, soft and hollow, even though we were already in it. "It's just the wind," Mike muttered, almost to himself. "This place is old. It's the pipes. Just pipes." We backed deeper into the basement. There were no windows, no doors. Just four walls that seemed to stretch too far in the dark and shelves of old boxes and rotting furniture. My flashlight caught something carved into the stone wall. A circle of symbols I couldn't understand, jagged and layered over each other like someone had kept scratching them in over time. "What is this place?" Eddie whispered. "It's just a basement," I lied. "Just a stupid old basement." But I couldn't believe myself anymore. Our phones didn't work. No signal, no flashlight apps, no calls, no internet. Just frozen clocks and black screens. Hours passed. Maybe minutes. We lost track fast. Mike sat down against the wall and started muttering something, rocking slowly. Sam kept rubbing his eyes, blinking into the dark like he was trying to make it vanish. Eddie cried for a while. I wanted to, but I didn't. Not yet. This isn't real, Sam said, suddenly loud. This is just our minds playing tricks. It's the fear. There's nothing here. No ghosts, no spirits, just our stupid imaginations. And then, we heard it again. Laughter, closer now, and footsteps, above us, heavy ones. Like someone pacing slowly, heel first, around the floor above the basement. Then a drag, like a body being pulled. Then silence again. Why does it sound like they're on top of the basement when we're already under it? Eddie asked, barely able to form the words. I had no answer. None of us did. And still, over and over, the whisper came, open the basement. Let us in. But it was open, and we were in it. Yet somehow we weren't alone. We were just trapped. In the kind of way where it felt like even if we screamed, the house wouldn't let the sound leave. Time didn't exist down there. It slipped between our fingers like sand, or maybe it froze altogether. We couldn't tell anymore. All we had was that terrible dark, our weakening flashlight beams and the voices. Those voices above us, still whispering the same phrase over and over like a sick lullaby. Open the basement. Let us in. But we were already in it. Or maybe that was the point. Maybe they didn't want out. Maybe they wanted us to let them in. Through us. Eddie had stopped talking. He sat in the corner, hugging his knees, eyes wide and distant. Sam was pacing, dragging his fingers along the wall like he was trying to read it with his skin. Mike was scratching at the door, over and over, whispering something I couldn't hear. And me? I was trying to stay sane. I told myself this was just panic. A prank the house was playing on us with creaking pipes and cold drafts. But that theory shattered when Sam said, Jason, your name is on the wall. What? I asked. He pointed at one of the stones. I came closer, and there it was, my name, Jason, carved deeply into the stone, like it had been etched years ago. Beneath it, more names appeared as I swept my light across the wall. Eddie, Mike, Sam, all four of us, all perfectly carved, all waiting for us. No, Eddie muttered suddenly. No, I heard her. My mom. I swear I heard her voice just now. She said my name. He stood up, shaking. She's upstairs. She's here. I have to go. I have to go now. He rushed to the stairs, banging on the door again like it might magically open for him this time. Mom! Mom! He cried out. We tried to pull him back, but something in him broke. He screamed, punched the door until his hand bled, then slid back down into a sobbing mess. Then it got worse. The walls began to feel closer, the air heavier. The laughter from above grew bolder, mocking us now, taunting us. The whispers turned into phrases. They came too, they said. They thought it was just a game. We watched them scream. We made them ours. Every word drilled deeper into us. Then came the shadows. It started in the far corner, something darker than the dark itself. Not moving, just there, watching. Then another by the broken shelf. Then another, hanging from the ceiling like smoke. They didn't have faces. They didn't need to. We could feel their focus on us, like we were prey that had already lost the chase. We screamed and prayed, and begged the house to let us go. We threw boxes at the door, tore at the stone walls with bleeding hands. I slammed my flashlight against the concrete until the bulb shattered, leaving us even deeper in darkness. Sam started muttering nonsense. Nursery rhymes, maybe? Or spells? Mike was rocking, whispering, "We never should have come," again and again, until his voice was gone. Then we heard it. Footsteps, slow, measured, coming down the stairs. Thud, thud, thud. We froze, too afraid to look, too afraid not to. I remember whispering, "This is it. This is where we die." I was sure of it. But then the voice came, low, calm, human. "Don't speak. Just follow." And that's when we saw him, my grandfather, standing at the bottom of the stairs, holding a glowing talisman in his hand, eyes cold, face unreadable. And just like that, the basement door creaked open behind him. I remember thinking that whatever was coming down the stairs wasn't human. It couldn't be. Nothing about this house had felt real for hours. It had become something else, something alive, feeding on our fear. Every step that echoed from the staircase sent a new wave of dread through us. We backed into the far corner of the basement, our flashlights too weak to cut through the thickness of the dark now, barely illuminating the stairs. Mike was whispering a prayer. Sam had stopped blinking. Eddie was muttering his mother's name again, rocking with his hands over his ears. I was frozen, breath shallow, eyes locked on that stairwell. And then he appeared. It wasn't a shadow. It wasn't a monster. It was my grandfather. He stepped down calmly, like he'd been here before. No fear, no hesitation. In one hand, he held something small and glowing. An old talisman, shaped like a sunburst with a deep red gem in the center that pulsed like it had a heartbeat. The glow it cast pushed back the darkness around him. Not fully, but enough to show us it was really him. Not a ghost. Not a vision. Just him. "Don't speak," he said, voice steady but soft. "Just follow." None of us moved. We couldn't. We didn't know whether to cry, scream, or collapse. But he didn't wait for us to decide. He turned around and began walking back up the stairs. The basement door, which we had torn at for hours, which had refused to budge, creaked open behind him, slowly, like it was obeying him. The laughter above us stopped. The whispers froze. The shadows that had watched us vanished like smoke in wind. I reached out and grabbed Eddie's arm. "Move!" I choked. "Now!" One by one, we stumbled after him. We didn't say a word. We didn't ask questions. We didn't look around. We followed. The hallway upstairs no longer looked arranged or perfect. It looked warped, as if the house had been caught changing shape and had frozen in place. Doors that hadn't been there before now lined the walls. The floor creaked with every step like it was protesting our escape, but the talisman glowed, and my grandfather never stopped walking. And the house, for the first time, backed down. We stepped out into the night, like we were surfacing from deep water, lungs burning, eyes squinting at the moonlight. The cold hit us all at once. We gasped, coughed, cried. And there, in the overgrown front yard, just beyond the cracked gate, we broke down. We clung to my grandfather like we were 5 years old again. No one said a word. No one could. He didn't ask questions. He didn't yell. He didn't even look at us. He just turned around, and with the talisman still faintly glowing in his hand, he led us home. Back to his house. Back to safety. Back to silence. And in that silence we knew. We had crossed into something that night. Something that didn't play by our rules. And something had crossed into us in return. We didn't say a word the whole walk back. Not one. The streets felt different now. Colder. Quieter. Like the world itself knew what we'd just crawled out of. My grandfather led the way, never once looking back, never once speaking. The talisman in his hand dimmed with each step away from house number 13, until the glow finally disappeared as we reached his porch. We followed him inside like children after a nightmare, unsure whether we were still dreaming. The air in his home was warm, safe, untouched by the thing we'd just escaped. And still, we couldn't stop shaking. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't scold us. He simply pointed to the living room, where he'd already laid out blankets and cushions by the fireplace. It was as if he knew we'd be there, as if he'd been preparing for it. We didn't question it. We didn't want to know why. We just collapsed into the silence and the safety and tried not to cry. Eddie curled up without a word. Sam lay on his back, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling like he was trying to make sense of the stars. Mike clutched his blanket like it was the only thing holding him together. As for me, I sat there watching my grandfather for hours. He didn't go to bed. He didn't eat. He just sat in his old armchair, the talisman now resting on the table beside him, his eyes half closed, but never truly asleep. Like a soldier on guard duty. We didn't speak that night, not even in whispers. Something had followed us out of that house. Not a ghost, not a shadow, but a silence so heavy it refused to break. We didn't sleep either. Not really. Just drifted in and out of something that felt more like a trance than rest, jumping at every creak of the floor or shift of the wind. In the morning, sunlight finally poured through the windows, bright and normal, like none of it had happened. Grandpa stood and stretched, then looked at each of us, one by one. Finally, he spoke. "Now you understand why some stories shouldn't be tested." That was all he said, and somehow, it was enough. We ate breakfast in silence, still pale, still trembling, like we were afraid our voices would bring the house back to life. When our parents picked us up later that morning, none of us said what had happened. We just told them we'd stayed the night at Grandpa's, had some laughs, fell asleep early. They believed us, of course they did, but we never went back to that street, never walked past that house again. We didn't need to. Once was enough, more than enough. And we never, never laughed at my grandfather's stories again. I still wonder how he knew we were there, how he knew to come, how he knew to bring that talisman. But I never asked. Some answers belong to the dark.